Your Denver Broncos have a beautiful matchup against the Dallas Cowboys to get to 6-2 and on top of the AFC West with a huge lead. And while I was nervous about this matchup at the start of the week, more advanced analytics just keep coming in that show the Denver Broncos are so far from putting out their best product that the best is truly yet to come. And we're saying that as a 5-2 team, not trailing in the fourth quarter of either of the games that we lost. We've got a ton of advantages to break down for the Denver Broncos and a pretty beefy trade rumor that we've definitely got to talk about. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben. And if you like content that's not generated by AI and is actual real person, helps me in the algorithm out a ton if you smash that like and subscribe button. So a couple advanced analytics just keep coming in. And what some of these stats are showing is that the Denver Broncos are just starting to scratch the surface. And a couple of these things are so easy to fix that it is just crazy. So this first one here is showing the average starting position for your opponent. And what you find is the place you do not want the Broncos to be, that we are dead last, that our opponent is starting on the 32-yard line most of the time, right? When you're starting your drive at the 32-yard line, there's now these new kicking balls that your team is allowed to have and rough up all week, and so it's a lot easier to make a big field goal. You were talking about being 2 or 3 possessions away from a makeable field goal at that point. And your Denver Broncos are giving up the worst field position to their opponents, and yet we still have one of the best defenses in the league. That is getting cleaned up now. Jonah Ellis is returning this week. We know he is crucial to special teams. We know Sean Payton and Rizzi went out and got their dude who was a former All-Pro from the New Orleans Saints, and our field position is just going to continue to increase. The next thing that is just showing me, like, dude, how are we 5-2 right now with how all of these things are just breaking in such a horrible way? The next one that comes in is how much help is your offense getting from opposing teams' penalties? In your quarterback in particular, how is their EPA increasing based on penalties, their expected point average or whatever, which is what EPA is. And you see that the Broncos are in the bottom third of this category. Dak Prescott has gotten a ton of help when it comes to penalties. No surprise here, but the Broncos are getting absolutely no help because the NFL hates Sean Payton. Your Denver Broncos at 5-2 are in the bottom third of the league when it comes to how much help Bo Nix is getting with penalties. That is going to change for sure. Next thing, you absolutely don't want to be on this list, and that is how many drops do your wide receivers have? Your Denver Broncos are one of the top 3 teams in football when it comes to amount of drops for Bo Nix. So not only is there no sophomore slump coming for Bo Nix, he is just going to keep getting better because we know these receivers can catch the ball and they just need to hang on to it. We know that game that we just played against the New York Giants, there was a punch out which counted as a drop, and I don't expect drops to be a thing that we're worried about. But at the end of this video, we're talking about trade candidates, and a very plugged-in ZBS reporter has the Broncos as a top trade candidate for Chris Olave, which we're going to break down. Now, here is the real crux of the issue. We know the Dallas Cowboys not only have the highest scoring offense in football, they have the highest yards per game for their offense. They have a double-headed monster in CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. They've got a running back who is resurging, who we know very well, in Javonte Williams, and then they've got a tight end in Ferguson who's a game beater. But I think the Denver Broncos match up perfectly with Riley Moss and Pat Surtain, and we have the data to prove it. So first off, we look at last week's game, and it is just wild to me that it came down to a walk-off field goal from Lutz to win that game, because Jackson Dart did not play a fantastic game. If you'd have told us before that game that Riley Moss and Pat Surtain wouldn't allow a reception, you'd say Broncos win that game by 1,000,000, and it really was penalties and just fluky, weird, out-of-pocket craziness that had that game so close. But that game, Riley Moss and Pat Surtain completely blanked the wide receivers that they were up against, and I can't remember a time in Broncos history where not one, but 2 of our corners pitched a complete shutout. Now, when it comes to these guys in particular, you got Pickens, who is an absolute diva, and when things start going against his way, you are going to see him fold like a lawn chair. And then you got CeeDee Lamb, who is back from an injury. Now, we have seen and have the receipts that Pat Surtain can lock either of them up and just wipe them off of the stat sheet. And we know that's true because it's happened multiple times going all the way back to college for those guys. So we look here, Pat Surtain held Pickens to 1 catch for 16 yards when he played him in 2024. And then he held CeeDee Lamb to 2 catches for 23 yards when we played them back in 2021. You go all the way back to college, and when Pat Surtain played Pickens then, held him to 2 catches for 21 yards when they played Georgia in one of the bowl games there. So my guess is that you are going to have Pat Surtain travel with CeeDee Lamb the entire game, or knowing that he can shut both of them down and Vance Joseph can do more things if he just keeps Pat Surtain on one side of the field. I feel totally confident in Riley Moss picking up the slack and guarding either of those guys as well. And that's not just me wanting to defend what I said early in the offseason when I said I thought the Broncos would have the best cornerback duo in football, but they do right now through 8 games here. We look here, and actually the number one corner in football when it comes to the completion percentage when he is targeted isn't Pat Surtain. It's actually Riley Moss. So all of the talk about Pat Surtain being the defensive player of the year, Riley Moss has been just balling out of control. And we see here that he has only allowed 39% completion percentage when he's targeted. And we know, like, he's had games against T. Higgins. He's played some phenomenal wide receivers, and he's done that. So I feel really, really confident. Now, in addition, if it is Riley Moss on Pickens is a basket case, and like I said, will fold like a lawn chair. On top of that, we've seen that his first year in the league, he came out and just balled out of control before defenses knew how to scheme against him. And the way to scheme against him is a press coverage and man coverage and make him do contested catches. Thank goodness our football team has finally learned to win close games, but we know what that means, that we are sweating it until the fourth quarter. And you know the way that I have found to be sweating and not be stinky? It is, of course, Mando. This is my go-to deodorant, and I don't need to smell like fantastic. Like, I don't use expensive, fancy colognes and want to smell like some dude who just drinks bottled water all day, but I need to not stink, and that is why I absolutely love Mando. This is like, you put it on once at the start of the day, and it's going to keep the stink at bay all day, like even until the next morning. I coached a flag football championship game, which we won yesterday. I also coached both of my daughters outside in like 100% humidity, and even this morning when I woke up, I like smelled my pits, and I'm like, I still don't stink. It is absolutely phenomenal. They have a ton of great products here. We've got like a deodorant wipe. They have a body wash. They've got a spray if you like it, a lotion if you like it, a deodorant, underarm deodorant stick, all the products, and I could not endorse them any higher. Don't stink. Use Mando, absolutely. So we've got a great link for fans of Sports Talk Denver. Click the link in my description and use our promo code. Don't sweat it. Sean Payton's got it. And if you do sweat it, use Mando. His first year in the league, he was doing vertical routes and wide open, and he had like a 70% catch percentage. Then last year, when teams figured out how do you guard George Pickens, you jam him at the line and make him have contested catches. His contested catch rate has dropped to 27.3, and he is not a burner and creating huge separation. He's just got a big frame on him, and he's only creating separation on 65% of his targets, which is way below the league average for a wide receiver. And now we know Riley Moss is only allowing 2.2 yard cushion to these wide receivers. And so pretty much every catch that Pickens is going to have is going to be a contested catch. I love how that matchup plays out for the Broncos. So I think you have Pat Surtain is going to lock down CeeDee Lamb. You're going to lock down Pickens with Riley Moss, and then you got Talanoa Hufanga and a healthy Brandon Jones as safeties cleaning things up, and everybody else is loaded up in the box to stop Javonte Williams. I think it is a perfect plan to stop the most high-powered offense in football. You're looking here at just like how good have these corners played. We see Riley Moss right here with Quinyon Mitchell, who, Chris Collinsworth can't say enough great things. Quinyon Mitchell, he's so good, Al. He's so good. And you know what? Riley Moss is even better. So that's how you stop Pickens, is you press him. That's exactly what you got to do to stop CeeDee Lamb. His worst game of last season was going up against Quinyon Mitchell, who Riley Moss is right in that same zone when it comes to how he's played. And last year, when he played Quinyon Mitchell, he was held to 21 yards on 6 catches because Quinyon Mitchell just beat him up the line of scrimmage, and he gives up and folds like a lawn chair. We look, Pat Surtain had very similar results against him when he played him in 2021, where he only had 2 receptions for 23 yards. So I feel fantastic about how this matchup with your Broncos corners is matching up against this high-powered team. If there's a team on offense we are built to stop, it is the Dallas Cowboys. We have elite cornerbacks to counter their elite wide receivers, and we know that we've stopped the run all season long. We've played some fantastic runners. We had one of the best games against Jonathan Taylor. We gave the Colts their toughest run and really had won that game if it wasn't for the leverage call. We stopped Breece Hall. We stopped the run game of every single team that we've played. We bottled up the run game for the Chargers. Like, we're going to be okay on defense. And then I know Bo Nix is taking the confidence of last week, knowing that he is going against a pretty pitiful team there with the Dallas Cowboys defense. On top of that, you shouldn't just be wildly hyped for this game. You should be wildly hyped about this Broncos defense once Dre Greenlaw is back in the mix, because We know he was on a pitch count and they only wanted him to play 20 snaps, but the way the snaps were going, he actually ended up playing 21 snaps. And despite only playing about a quarter of our snaps, he had the second most tackles of the entire team. He had 6 tackles on 21 of 77 snaps. And so when he is back in the mix, watch out, because this defense is already nasty and it is about to get a lot nastier. And then you look here, the Dallas Cowboys shipped off one of the best defensive players in football in Micah Parsons without an adequate replacement, and they are banking on those 2 first-round draft picks to propel them into the future. But that does not help them against one of the best offensive lines in football, and we are seeing that the stats prove it, that the defensive line of the Giants that we just beat really handily in that fourth quarter, that is the toughest defensive line we'll face all year. They have monsters and game wreckers on that defensive line. You got Sexy Dexy, you got Abdul Carter. Like, that is a great defensive line. The Cowboys don't have a single name that any of us even know. And looking here, Mike McGlinchey, despite getting rolled up on, had the 6th highest rating for an offensive lineman in football. Garrett Bowles is still the league leader on offensive line at tackle. Luke Wattenberg had the highest rating of all centers against the Sexy Dexy, who's one of the best defensive tackles he's going to play. Quinn Meinerz had the 7th best blocking grade amongst all guards. And Palczewski, who's option number 4 for the Broncos, right? Like, option 1 is Powers, option 2 is Gargulio, who got hurt, option 3 is Pert, and then you throw Alex Palczewski in there, and he still was the 23rd best guard in football last week against a very good defensive line. So I'm feeling fantastic about how our offense is going to play against a bunch of no-names with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, one thing I think we all would love is, like, can we start to see some offensive fireworks, and can we see them earlier than the fourth quarter, which is what the Broncos did on Sunday against the Giants. And there are a lot of people out there saying that Chris Olave is definitely on the market to be traded. He is in his last year of his deal, and the Saints need an absolute rebuild there. Like, that is a dumpster fire on roller skates, essentially. And what we're seeing here is that CBS came out and said they actually think that the Denver Broncos are the team that are shopping for a wide receiver the most. We have all of our picks through the 5th round, and then we actually got an extra 4th round pick from trading Devon Vele. And then on top of that, I think Vance Joseph is going to get a head coaching job, which means we're going to get 2 extra 3rd round draft picks as compensatory picks because of the Rooney Rule. I think if Sean Payton wants this offense to be explosive like he had with the New Orleans Saints, it would behoove us to go out and get a playmaker like Chris Olave. This dude is absolutely nasty in a number of ways. Just seeing his ability after the catch, like, when was the last time you saw that exact route, like a dig route that turns into way more than that? Like, I'm very confident that Cortland Sutton is catching that ball, but he's not spinning out and making that a 20-yard gain. You just see a red zone monster. You see a speedster. You see a sure-handed guy. He catches the ball, incredibly physical. Just seeing these deep ball shots, I think he comes down with it. And as Bo Nix is leading the league when it comes to drops, that's not a worry with Chris Olave. So if the Broncos could get something for him, I think that would be such a smart move. Let me know in the comments, what would you be willing to give up to go get Chris Olave and bring him here, knowing that he does need a new contract? I don't think we're talking a 1st round draft pick because, you know, we saw Pickens, who's a fantastic wide receiver, go for what, a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick when he got traded from the Steelers to the Dallas Cowboys. I think you're saying a very similar thing here for the Denver Broncos. And I think the way the Broncos are playing, that's going to be a very high draft pick. I think the Denver Broncos are going to be picking at the very end of that 2nd round, right? So you're talking, you give up pick number 60, 61, 62, 63 to get Chris Olave. Sign me up. I think that we are a piece away when it comes to that. But let me know in the comments what you think about that. Broncos country, we got so much to Bo-LIEVE in.